Hello, everyone. It's your instructor, Ann Babson. This is a practice lesson that you can hang on to. Our homework for this first session is really going to be oral homework. Again, we did the pronunciation of sounds, and then we will have another homework which will also be spoken rather than written. We will eventually get to written homework, but I think at the beginning, the best thing I can do to help you is to help you get talking. Because if you think about how you learned English as a child, first you learned to speak. Eventually you learned to spell, and then you learned to write. And French, I believe our first contact, our first real ability usually comes through the mouth rather than the hand when we are speaking a language, we are learning a language. So, bonjour is how we say hello in a good day kind of a way, and bonsoir is for the evening. And these are niceties in French. And it's an introduction to some grammar and some very basic concepts of how French works. In French, there are different ways to say hello. Bonjour is hello in the daytime. Bonsoir is hello in the nighttime. If I'm seeing a friend, salut, hi. And notice that I would find, just as I would in English, the few times I've ever heard someone say good evening, it's a bit old-fashioned to say good evening, which is what bonsoir means. In French, it's still said. Good day and good evening are said. That's what bonjour and bonsoir mean, and salut is hi. And formality is something that matters a great deal in the French language. Americans are highly informal. We even pride ourselves on our ability to be informal. And the French do not see informality as necessarily a virtue. I mean, some can, but mostly not. So, knowing the level of formality and intimacy with one's speaker, one's interlocutor, to use a very fancy English word for it, is important in even saying things like hello and introducing yourself. People in America are rarely so conscious of formality in a meeting. And in fact, someone who is stuffy is probably not well liked here. The opposite is true in many contexts in France. If someone is too informal, they think how rude, how presumptuous that person was. Who do they think they are? So I'm going to help you navigate some of these phrases. There aren't a lot of slides in this lesson, but there are a lot of concepts. And I would suggest you play this over to yourself again and again. So, how are you also has different levels of formality. The most formal is comment allez-vous? I'll say that again. Comment allez-vous? Notice that I'm almost saying the T as if it's attached to the second word. The last letter is in the first word becomes the first sound in the second word. That happens with vowels. It's called an elision. And it's almost like a slide trombone. In fact, that's the term for when a slide trombone goes from one note to another. It's also called an elision. And in French, there are many times when there are elisions between consonants and vowels. We'll learn the rule in another lesson, but comment allez-vous is how I say how are you in the most formal way. Comment vas-tu is less formal, far less formal. And comment ça va? Even less formal. And ça va? Super informal. So again, I'm going to say it again after a sip of Diet Coke. Comment allez-vous? Repeat after me. Comment vas-tu? Comment ça va? Ça va? All of those mean how are you, but as you go down this list, it becomes less and less formal. It's important to understand that there are two ways to say um, you in French. And in the South, we have the expression y'all, which is a bit akin to the first way that you see toward the top of the page, vous, because it is the plurality of people, but it's more than that. Vous is a term that is used for formal situations with people. Um, and so, all right. You in French, we only really have the one you, and we have levels of formality. If I'm talking to the Supreme Court and I'm asked a question as a lawyer arguing a case before the Supreme Court, my language has to be very formal. But the word for you, when I say Your Honor, you said in your own case such and such and such and such in your decision, blah blah blah. I would have formal language, but it would not be reflected in which way I said you. The French, it is absolutely directly and immediately affected in whether I say vous, which is formal and plural, or tu. And remember that ou, u sound that I did in the first video. There is a difference between how I say ou, vous, and in the informal you, tu, tu. So vous is a formal word that is, when one is getting to know people, the most common version of you. First of all, it's for any time that I have more than one person. Any time at all when I have more than one person. It's also for people that I don't know well. I couldn't just come up to someone and say to them, you in the informal if I'm asking for directions or the time or anything like that. My gosh. And also, if I just have met them once or twice, but I'm really not friends, but we have had brief discussions, I would be rather formal. When I speak to someone who is older, no matter how affectionately I feel toward them, how much affection I feel for them toward them, I tend to say vous. I have an older woman friend who just turned, I think, 76 yesterday. And I have known her for more than half my life. Golly, that's a long time. She's almost like a mother to me, which is very special. But she's not my mother. And she is someone to whom I owe, because of her age and position, some respect. So I would never in a million years call her tu. I would call her vous, even though my feeling for her is very loving. For people who are working with me as customers, I would say vous if I were in a customer relationship, customer client, or I'm sorry, client vendor relationship. The customer is always right, and almost without exception, the customer is vous and not tu. And if I am talking to any group of people, even little kids who don't get a formal you, but there's more of them, I will say vous. Uh, when I am talking in other cases, I might say tu, and here are the main ones. Children. Anytime I have a child, unless that child is the crown prince of Norway or something, and for some reason I'm the governess teaching him French, because of his royal status, I might say vous, but otherwise anybody under 15 is for sure tu. For me as an adult, and doubtless for you as an adult as well. Um, for friends and classmates, it would be tu. it would be a very weird moment if I ever called somebody vous, uh, who was a friend. They would say, "Why is she giving me the cold shoulder?" The change in formality would be keenly felt. Um, my colleagues, I would call them after I got to know them for a while, not just once or twice. At first, the relationship would be one of vous, but at some point, we say tu to each other. I knew, for instance, at l'Union Française, after I'd been there a couple of weeks, people started calling me tu, that I was like on the team as far as they were concerned. And it was an appropriate formal feeling. They were at first a bit not standoffish in some rude way, but they just didn't know me like that is the difference. And then of course, I mean, if we were in the 18th century, we could say vous to each other if we were falling in love with one another, but that's just weird in the 21st century. Nobody, by the time if your tongue has gone in somebody else's mouth, that person is tu, like forever. That's just a thing. So just, yes, those are the differences of situation that would cause the change. What is your name is either formal or informal. And part of that has to do with learning how to conjugate. And we'll get into it in much greater detail. But I want to teach you a few set phrases that would be the first things that would come up if you were ever visiting someone in France, for instance. So if I don't know you yet, or and we are both adults, I'm very likely to say, "Comment vous appelez-vous?" I'll say that again. Comment vous appelez-vous? Literally, how you call you. How do you call yourself? Comment vous appelez-vous? But if I meet a little child, I will bend down and say, Comment t'appelles-tu? Comment t'appelles-tu? Because if I'm asking you for your name, you are a stranger. If it's an adult, I'm almost always going to say the more formal version of it. There are rare exceptions indeed, rare enough that I don't feel the need to go into them here. And so we are going to learn a lot about these words. This is just ways to practice some set phrases. We are going to learn how to conjugate. I promise you that is big on the list of things we're going to do. But for a beginning step, I'm just going to have you hear and learn some set phrases without the logic of grammar being fully there. But so, this is how I might answer the question. First of all, je m'appelle. You'll recall from the last video I said my name is. Je m'appelle Anne. Je m'appelle. And then if I say to a little kid, tu t'appelles, your name is. And then his name is, il s'appelle, his name is. I might say, voici, here is, mon chien, my dog, il s'appelle Cruiser. And if I say, she is, her name is, I would say, elle s'appelle, and notice that Elle magazine is named after the word for she in French. And then if I were talking about last names, I might say, nous nous appelons, talking about my family, nous nous appelons. And again, if I am saying your name is, vous vous appelez, like I'm remembering your name, ah, vous vous appelez. And then if I'm talking about a group, unless it is all women, if it were all women, I would say elle s'appelle. Like I might say of the women who sang with Beyonce and Beyonce, elle s'appelle Destiny's Child. That would be an all-woman group. but normally when groups are mixed, they are by default given the male gender. Il s'appelle, their name is. And again, we're going to talk about all of these words a lot as we learn French. This is just the first of many conversations to come about saying these words. And here are ways to say pleased to meet you in descending order of from formality to informality. If I am a woman, which I am, I would say the top one, je suis heureuse. Je suis is I am. Je suis heureuse. I'm saying the second part of that phrase with a slash in it. Heureuse means happy. De faire, to make. Votre, your, connaissance. Je suis heureuse de faire votre connaissance. But let's say I was a man. I would say, je suis heureux de faire votre connaissance. And a little less formal, let's say I'm at a cocktail party, I'm meeting a lot of people, and I'm not going to say the whole phrase all at once. I would say, if I'm a man, très heureux de faire votre connaissance, which means very happy to make your acquaintance. And if I'm a woman, très heureuse de faire votre connaissance. And here I would say, je suis heureuse, or heureux if I were a man, de faire ta connaissance. Notice that tu and ta begin with the same letter, and they are related. So if it's a little kid, I'm going to say, je suis heureuse de faire ta connaissance. But I'm being somewhat less formal now, and I'm at a party with people who are there to chill. It's not business cocktail. I might say enchanté. Enchanté. And the extra E would be added for me because I'm a woman. We're going to learn about gendered adjectives. That's going to be a whole lesson. Gendered adjectives. Adjectives change if the thing that you're describing has a male or female gender in French. That's a whole subject we're not going to open in its entirety tonight. But enchanté just means I'm enchanted, literally. I'm, happy to meet you. And then less formal, très heureux. Très heureux is male, a man saying very happy, like very happy to meet you. And I would say très heureuse. These are the expressions. I suggest that we go through them once more. I will say them in descending order, but I'm only going to use the feminine just because it's easier for me and also kind of weird for me to keep referring to myself as a man. Je suis heureuse de faire votre connaissance. Très heureuse de faire votre connaissance. Je suis heureuse de faire ta connaissance. Enchantée, très heureuse. There. And you should practice a bit as well. So on top, I haven't translated, but you recognize one word, weekend. The word for in French for weekend is weekend. So you know what that is. So voici, here is votre, your, devoir, homework, which I think you already know because of the last video, du weekend, of the weekend. So I want you to practice. You'll want to put this on, repeat it over and over again. Practice saying all the things in this video. And then the next time we meet, I want you to be able to say, hello, my name is, and then say to someone else, what is your name? How are you? I am pleased to meet you. In French. You'll want to practice this. You have all the words. You have all the words you're going to need for this. But you might want to watch this video more than once. And so, even though this isn't a very long video, I think it has so much information in it that I should leave it at that. Happy practice. I look forward to seeing you again. Au revoir.